That'll do. Got another story here. As always, I'll put the link below to the article. If you don't mind visiting the site, even just for a couple of seconds, it just gives the creator of these articles a bit of traffic on their pages for their advertisers. I'm not paid, obviously, or sponsored by them in any way, shape, or form. It just helps, obviously, for them to keep producing the content that we then can use for these sorts of videos and these discussions. But anyway, let's get on with this one. And I do believe that this is an interesting article. And it's about, I think, the signs of the times that we're currently living in. Although I'm not trying to say anything definitive with this, although I may speak in definitive terms through the video. I still think it may be a bit early, but I definitely think it's leading towards worrying signs. And it's basically that Germany is considering bringing back military service, or put it bluntly, conscription. Now, I'm quite a firm believer of the old adage of don't listen to what people say, look at what they do. And to make that simple, if somebody's telling you that they love you but they're punching you in the face repeatedly, the physical action of being punched in the face tells a different story. So with Germany bringing back conscription, especially seeing as they've been so quite anti-war since after, obviously, earlier 20th century events, let's say, it's quite concerning that Germany is actually seriously considering this. Well, this is from the Telegraph. As I say, article will be below. Please do read it yourself, make your own mind up, and don't just listen to what I say. But anyway, here we go. Germany considers bringing back military service. Defence Minister looking at all other options after admitting that scrapping conscription in 2011 had been a mistake in hindsight. Quite often the case when they cut back on the military, it's always something that they say, oh, we never should have done that. We've been hearing that a lot in this country about constantly reducing military numbers and cutting funding, and then something happens and they go, oh, maybe we shouldn't have done that. Yeah, obviously. The peace dividend was a myth after the Berlin Wall came down, and that money was just wasted. Germany is looking into ways to bring back conscription after the country's defence minister said that abolishing it had been a mistake. The defence ministry in Berlin is evaluating models to bring back military service as it struggles to attract recruits at a time when it is seeking to boost troop numbers. Oh, well, what about those millions of new Germans that have arrived? You'd think with them coming from such poor countries and living such harsh lives and being so poorly oppressed, they'd be clambering hand over fist to sign up to the German military if it meant they could go back to those countries and make them more peaceful and accepting and tolerant nations. Why is that not happening? I wonder why. Let's not kid ourselves. It's because they're not here because they're not being persecuted. It's because they're here for a free ride and they know they're going to get money. Boris Pistorius, the defence minister, confirmed on Saturday that he was looking at all options and looking at alternative models such as the Swedish model, where all young men and women are conscripted and only a select few end up doing their basic military service, he told Die Welt newspaper. I don't know anything about the Swedish model. I can't see that really working in a country like Germany. I think you're just going to end up with a bunch of people just finding any reason not to do it. Sweden brought back conscription in 2017 in response to the increased military threat from Russia. Again, I mean, they've left it to lastminute.com with these sorts of things. It's not like Russia haven't been Russia for the last nearly 100 years. You know what they are today. It's just it's the absolute arrogance of these political parties thinking, oh, the Berlin Wall went down, and we've moved on since then. Get back to the mid-90s, you caveman. About 4,000 young men and women are called up every year, and draft dodgers have been put in jail. So they should be. But there's something, and that should go for all people across from all backgrounds. If you want to live in the country, you do your military service, and I think we should have a similar thing here as well. Although it shouldn't necessarily mean you end up in the military. There are plenty of other ancillary services that you could be put into as well, and never deploying outside the borders either. Whether something like that would also be conceivable here is part of our deliberations, Mr. Pistorius said. Russia's invasion of Ukraine led Germany to make an about turn on how it prioritises defence spending, which has been largely neglected since the end of the Cold War. Yeah, there you go, the peace dividend. Well, what have they done? They've wasted that money. I mean, even the money that they invested like into all of their things like nuclear power plants and that, they've shut all them down, decommissioned them, and replaced them with a bunch of wind farms and solar panels that don't work. Um, the actual money that they spent on all that green infrastructure that doesn't work because the country isn't warm enough or windy enough for enough time of the year, they could have spent that on nuclear power and made all the money back from it, plus more, and sold power to the rest of Europe. Mr. Pistorius has been handed the tricky task of reforming the army, which has been plagued by inefficient bureaucracy and outdated kit. Well, we saw that when they were giving equipment to Ukraine. There were stories coming back, and I don't know how prevalent these were, but it was things like they were sending over helmets that were full of black mould and Stinger missiles that, again, were covered in black mould, you know, just stuff that had been in storage for, in some cases, I think, actual decades, or just kept in absolutely unsuitable conditions for storing anything apart from fish. As part of the modernisation, Berlin is a target of increasing troop numbers from 180,000 today to more than 200,000 by 2031. Well, that could be done very easily. For a start paying people more. Stop giving so much money away to all these migrants. You know, they find all this money to bring millions of people over to the country. You know, when Mama Merkel said, everybody's welcome in the world to come to Germany, and then they get inundated by people. It's like, well, there's your money all gone, you know. Germany stopped conscription, which used to apply to all male school leavers as recently as 2011. How progressive, just to the males. The government at the time argued that it had become too expensive. Mr. Pistorius of the 2011. That was not long. That was around the time actually that they started inviting the whole world there. It was around the time of the Syrian conflict that Angela Merkel did that. And I can remember actually I was in Afghanistan at the time, seeing the boats coming over, the first boats coming over to the channel. And I was saying to people, this is going to destabilise Europe, this. We're going to see absolute chaos. They got called insane for that. I can distinctly remember it by one of the sergeants saying, that'll never happen. There's not going to be that many coming over. And then Angela Merkel went on telly and told the whole world to move to Germany. I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't believe this is actually happening. And people were like, no, you won't get that many going. And I went, you watch it. You just watch and see, and it'll happen. I said, there's going to be millions and millions of people coming to Europe with this. I said, it's going to increase exponentially. They said I was crazy, and lo and behold, I was right. Mr. Pistorius of the Social Democrats said the decision had been a mistake in hindsight, but he admitted that too few German MPs agreed with him, meaning that he would struggle to bring it back in its old form. A debate over whether, you see, Germany's got a big problem with a lot of its politicians, though. I mean, they suffer a lot from war guilt as well, a lot of the older politicians in Germany. They really, although I've got to say, from my experience, in Paderborn, speaking to a lot of German people there on like nights out and things, a lot of people sort of my age and younger, they don't care about it anymore. They're like, wasn't me, I didn't do it and I don't care. So I think we could start seeing a change in German politics quite soon, especially like with the ADF and that. Although they're not as people like to make out like the ultra nationalists and that. They're not. They are quite soft, really, centre right at best, I'd say. Apart from the stance on immigration, really, they're very par for the course, from what I've seen of them anyway. The opposition Christian Democrats, a party of the centre-right, have proposed a compulsory year of service that could also include social work. See, that's not a bad thing to do, that. In February, going back to that, they talk about us not having enough carers in the country. That's where we'll get carers from. You know, it's part of your national service. You've got to do 2 years of being a carer. So then we don't need to import carers from abroad. So that would be a big part of where we, you know, these places where we have shortages, until we can actually find better solutions to them. You know, we could bring back national service. And not only that, but the amount of people going to university who don't need to. 50% of kids are going to university doing degrees which they never use in the real world, useless degrees. Again, like once upon a time, most of those kids would have ended up like, speaking to my mum, she was born in the 50s, and she can remember when she was young, like all people who were like, say, teenagers, they'd all go doing the fruit picking. You know, it'd be like everybody go doing the fruit picking. You know, if you weren't doing something with your time, and you'd get involved in wider community. But instead, we've got a bunch of people who are going doing these courses, getting ideas beyond the station, thinking that jobs like that are below them. And I'm not saying that's all students. I know plenty, because I live in a large student town, so I know plenty of students who aren't like that as well. And so I am generalising a bit. I don't mean to, But I've also met the other side of it, of the absolute hubris of some students who think because they've done a PhD that they're Albert Einstein, and they're clearly not, because they don't know the backside from their elbow. In the final lines, anyway. In February, Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor, made clear that he opposed reintroducing conscription, describing it as a bad idea. No, I don't think it's a bad idea, and I think this is the sort of socialist, lefty kind of thinking that actually belongs back in the 20th century. Same even just like teachers smacking kids. I genuinely believe, because my kids are having a bit of problem at school at the moment. I don't want to go too much into it, but there's some really, and I'm talking about 8-year-old kids here. Like, one of the kids was flipping over tables in the class, and hit one of my kids in the stomach. And calling the teacher a retard, a stupid retard, and things like that. It's totally unacceptable. And I do think that some of these kids, and I'm not saying all kids, but they do just need a whack. In my opinion, and some people you just can't reach with reason, and some people do just need shocking out of it. And we need to go back to these things that were time known wisdom for millennia, not just centuries, like literally multiple millennia. The entire of recorded human history, and I imagine even before. Like when you look at any other mammals. You look at chimpanzees, when one of them's misbehaving, the other chimpanzees will put them in place with a bit of force. Don't brutalise them. You look at wolves, one of the wolves gets out of line, gets a bite off the other ones. Not so he's bleeding out and that, but they just get put in the place. Same with cattle, same with all other large mammals. Lions, whatever, hyenas, the lot. You start getting the other ones getting out of line, they get told. So again, I've got a bit off piece and left it, but just all this basic wisdom. And like with conscription, it used to teach people. We're seeing people now who can't cope with life, and they've no respect. They don't know how to talk to somebody. Like in a job interview, it's because they're not learning it at home, and not everybody's capable of teaching that. I'm not criticising that, but as a wider, we talk about how we should be helping people, but we're not. We're giving people all the so-called lofty ideals that they can be what they want to be whoever they want to be, achieve everything in life, blah blah blah. But we're not actually teaching them how to do these basic things. How many kids understand when they leave school or university what compound interest is, or how to manage a credit card properly, how to pay a water bill? All these basic things. They've no clue, because they get all that sort of stuff given to them on a plate and managed for them on their behalf. When it comes to it, and they're told that, oh, when you leave university, you'll be running the country, blah, blah. And then they leave. Nobody's interested in the, I don't know, lesbian, bloody tap dancing, emotional expression course that they've done. Whatever craziness like that. Nobody cares. They've been fed all this BS about how it's, the best thing since sliced bread. And then reality comes crashing down quick, and then they become very bitter and angry. And I'm not surprised, because they spent a lot of money and they'll be in debt for a long, long time with that. Anyway, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there, like completely away from what this article was about. If you enjoyed that, please like, subscribe, and if you don't mind, give us a comment below. Take care and enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.